And here at home, some members of Congress are very skeptical about any plan that would loosen sanctions on Iran. One of those concerned members is the chairman of the House Foreign Affairs Committee, Republican Ed Royce. Mr. Chairman, thank you very much for joining us.
Good to be with you.
You and the ranking member of the House Foreign Affairs Committee, Eliot Engel, wrote President Obama very recently about your concerns about this potential deal. And among your concerns are what it does not require Iran to do. Let's take a look at some of those things. Iran will not be required to suspend enrichment and reprocessing activities, will not be required to halt the production and installation of additional centrifuges. It will not be required to transfer to another country uranium enriched to a level of 20% or higher. And Iran will not be required to halt all construction or other activities at the Iraq heavy water facility, which is intended to produce weapons-grade plutonium. Put this, encapsulate this, what it means for me.
Well, what it means is that I think the French are right when they say this would be a sucker's deal. And the reason it would be so dangerous for us and for our allies throughout that part of the world is because Iran in the past has made certain representations and then walked back from them. This is the first time we've had the opportunity with such pressure on Iran with the sanctions which had passed the Senate 100-0, and yet the administration opposed those sanctions, if you'll recall. Those sanctions are causing capital flight. They're causing a situation where the economy is imploding inside Iran. Iran is desperate to get out from under them. And under the negotiations that are underway, Iran would actually be able to continue its enrichment, still have not dismantle its plutonium operation there at Iraq, and on top of it all, sanctions would begin to unravel on the country. And as a consequence, it would be very hard for us to get them back into place. So if we're going to do a deal, the deal has to be that Iran stops its nuclear program. If that isn't the deal, then we need to ratchet up sanctions. We just passed a few months ago out of the House a vote of 400 to 20 for additional sanctions on Iran that will frankly collapse its economy. And that's the deal we should offer them. Economic collapse or stop the nuclear program.
Right. Indeed, it's kind of, critics say, a peculiar way to negotiate, because it is the sanctions which in all likelihood brought them to the negotiating table in the first place. Why get rid of that very important tool that led to this in the first place?
And the other point is that sanctions are psychological. So you already see a number of countries lining up and beginning to try to anticipate breaking the sanctions because they're trying to begin the process of negotiations with Iran on oil. So if we're going to lift sanctions on petrochemicals, on gold, on a certain amount of oil, if we're going to allow them to repatriation of earnings back into the country, what we're actually signaling for those who want change in Iran, for those who really saw that the Ayatollah was under an enormous amount of pressure, we're signaling that we're going to release that pressure valve, that we are going to make it easier for the Ayatollah to simultaneously keep the program, simultaneously, what was this, 2 or 3 weeks ago that he had the marchers out and they were yelling death to America again. Death to America, death to Israel.
One other important point to this is where it leaves Israel. Obviously, as you just suggested, Israel perceives nuclear-equipped Iran as an existential threat to their existence. Will Israel attack?
Well, here's the other problem. You relieve the sanctions, give Iran more money to send to Hezbollah, to send to Hamas, to support the Muslims.